Have you ever stopped and wondered why pretty much every single ad back in 2020 suddenly started to sound, well, exactly the same? It was a weird time, right? Well, today, we are going to solve that mystery. We are pulling back the curtain on the secret playbook that brands were using during the pandemic.
Does this phrase ring a bell? I bet it does. Just think back to the spring of 2020 for a second. That slow, somber piano music, all those shots of empty streets, and that gentle voiceover saying things like, "In these unprecedented times," or "We're here for you." And of course, the absolute classic, "We are in this together." It seriously felt like every single company on the planet got the exact same memo.
So what on earth was going on? This whole thing, this advertising sameness, it got so widespread that people made countless parody videos about it. But here's the thing. This wasn't just some creative rut or a massive case of copy and paste. No, it was a very calculated response to a global crisis. And now, thanks to some new research, we can finally see the playbook they were all reading from.
And let's be really clear about this. It wasn't laziness. It was a deliberate strategic shift in thinking. See, researchers wanted to go beyond just the jokes and actually figure out what brands were trying to do. And what they uncovered is this really fascinating psychological pivot that companies made when everything felt so uncertain. And honestly, it explains everything.
Okay, so to really get our heads around this pivot, we need to talk about a core idea from social psychology that brands use all the time, especially when the stakes are high. It's called impression management. It's basically the framework that explains how all of us and brands try to control how other people see us.
So, impression management theory is pretty much the art of shaping your public image. We all do it. Think about a first date or a big job interview. You're strategically choosing what to say and how to act. Well, for brands, it's the exact same idea, just on a massive scale. It's about building trust and staying relevant, especially during a crisis when everybody's feeling anxious. And inside this big idea of impression management, this study looks at two key tactics. On the one hand, you've got ingratiation. This is the classic approach, right? Be charming, be funny, be cool, do whatever it takes to get people to like your brand. But then there's exemplification, and this one is totally different. The goal isn't just to be liked, it's to be seen as morally good, as responsible, as virtuous. The goal is to get people to trust your brand. That distinction is so important.
So how can we be so sure this is what was happening? Well, researcher Juliana Fernandes and her team over at the University of Florida didn't just guess. They rolled up their sleeves and did a huge, systematic analysis of advertising. And believe me, their findings are really interesting. Get this, they collected and coded 876 different video and print ads. And this wasn't just a casual glance. It was the first really big study to actually put a number on the shift that we all felt. And the key was comparing the pandemic ads to a whole bunch of ads that ran before any of it started.
And they were smart about it too. They didn't just lump the whole pandemic together. They tracked how the ads changed through each distinct phase, from the total shock of the first lockdown to the cautious reopening, all the way to the vaccine rollouts. This shows us how brands were literally changing their strategy in real time.
All right, so what did this massive analysis actually uncover? Well, when you put the pre-pandemic ads side by side with the pandemic ads, you see this absolutely dramatic strategic flip.
Before the crisis, it turns out about 80% of ads were using ingratiation. Trying to be likable, selling you a product with a joke and a smile. But as soon as the pandemic hit, that strategy completely fell off a cliff. Trying to be funny or cool just felt totally tone deaf.
So what rushed in to replace it? You guessed it, exemplification. That whole strategy of appearing morally upright and responsible. Before the pandemic, it was barely ever used. But during the pandemic, it showed up in a whopping 43% of ads. This massive pivot, this is the reason for all those somber pianos and all those "we're in this together" messages. So here it is, the main takeaway. When the world felt scary and uncertain, brands figured out that selling you on how cool or competent they were just wasn't going to cut it. The number one goal became projecting empathy, solidarity, and social responsibility. It was a huge shift from "buy our stuff" to "we care."
But this whole thing, the shift from "buy our stuff" to "we care," it's not just about marketing. It actually tells us something much, much bigger about ourselves and our culture during that time. It's like it holds up a mirror to our collective state of mind.
This quote from the study just says it all perfectly. The ads we see are a reflection of what's going on in the culture.
In a crisis, our collective values change. We start craving reassurance, we crave community, and advertising just reflects that right back at us. It becomes a kind of barometer for our shared fears and hopes.
And that really leaves us with one final big question to think about. This study gives us a fantastic way to understand communication during a global health crisis. But as we look ahead to future disruptions, whether they're economic, political, or something else entirely, it really makes you wonder, what playbook will be written then? And what will that playbook reveal about who we've become?